She's really different. Now that she's getting older, and literally, we're scattered all over. That was good.
Yeah.
We're ready.
They don't understand. Okay, that's better. It may go be better.
That's Max.
When she calls it to him, then say, does that make sense?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I see some hugging going on in the room. I'll just let folks get settled there. Well, first, too, let me just say I'm very sorry that I'm missing those of you in the room in person. I'm traveling with the governor, who has just wrapped up his chairmanship of the National Governors Association, a big annual conference that we have every year. So very excited about his successful work up here and what takes me to Maine instead of being in Pine Bluff. So let me call this 6th meeting of the Women's Commission, Arkansas Women's Commission, to order. I first want to thank our host, Ms. Mildred Franco, who has a long history of supporting entrepreneurs in Arkansas and is very well respected there in the Pine Bluff community. Mildred, I see you there. Hi. She is our only non-commissioner host, and this was intentional. She has just such a great supporter of women in Arkansas that I thought it appropriate when we were in Pine Bluff that she be our host. I also want to thank Mr. Ricky Williams, the director of the Pine Bluff Public Library. Thank you for letting us be in this beautiful space today. It looks, I can see through windows, looks like great weather there today too. So a couple of things. I want to remind our guests and participants that this meeting is open to the public. It is accessible via live stream YouTube and will be archived on our website at a later date. That website again is women.arkansas.gov. And I just want to remind the folks in the room, if you would please be sure to get a microphone as you speak. There'll be a couple of runners in the room to do that. It makes it easier for those of us on the virtual end to be able to hear you. So just please take that into consideration. We want to make sure we capture everything. With that, let me invite Mildred to give a few words of welcome as well.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, is it on? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Allison. We are sorry that you cannot be with us, but we understand the priorities these days. So I'm glad I hope you're enjoying Maine and there is a beautiful weather in Portland. Thank you, everyone in the room, for coming. I am so excited to see all these wonderful women in the room that have a breadth and a depth of experience. And I invite you all to be your authentic selves and to share widely about your experiences, your barriers, and the things that you would like to see going forward for women in Arkansas, not just yourself, but those that you know and those that you make community with. I want to thank Allison for the honor of hosting this meeting. I really appreciate that. I also want to thank Ricky Williams for allowing us to use the beautiful space, which we Pine Bluffians are very proud of. I want to thank Jeremy with the governor's office for being an absolute jewel and working with all the technology. This meeting would not be possible without him. And I want to welcome all the commissioners to Pine Bluff. Some of you have been to Pine Bluff before, and those of you who have not been and have not had a chance to look at the library, I welcome you to take a tour at the end of the meeting and see this beautiful space. Without further ado, Thank you, Allison, and I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mildred. I want to note that one of our commissioners, Dr. Sharice Jones-Branch, if this held, is unable to join us today due to an unanticipated obligation, so we'll miss her in her absence. And I also want to note a couple of things as a personal point of privilege. I want to note the recent passing of Mr. Joe Oliver Larkin, who is Commissioner Heather Larkin's father. He passed away recently. So I just ask that you continue to keep her family in your thoughts and prayers, and to celebrate the appointment of Dr. Todd Shields as the new Chancellor of Arkansas State. So Dr. Shields, I see you on there. Congratulations. And we're so proud of the work that you do for the state, both at the University of Arkansas and at Arkansas State University in the future. Great. Okay, so on to business. Draft minutes of our last meeting were sent to commissioners for review last week. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from the June 16th meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Joyce Elliott.
Thank you, Senator Elliott. Is there a second? Okay, I see Kathy Webb has raised her hand as a second. Thank you so much. So without objection, the minutes from the June 16th meeting are adopted. Do we have any other old business from commissioners for discussion? All right. Okay, and at this time, I'm going to invite representatives of each of our subcommittees to provide their reports to the commission and to briefly update on the work that has been done. And Dr. Shields, I'm going to turn it over to you first with research and writing.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate it. And like Allison said, Dr. Jones-Branch is not here today, so I'm covering for this subcommittee. Just an update that we have a draft of our state survey that I'm going to be sending to Maddie and the Women's Commission, the Foundation of Arkansas, to review. I'll probably send that this weekend, and then we'll send it out to the whole group to start looking at. And we've lumped the questions under the governor's mandates, so we can see where they're falling. And we've really combed through other women's commissions that have done surveys recently to see where the questions can overlap, and maybe we can make some comparisons there. I wanted to remind the other subcommittees that if they want to add something to the survey, we need to have those around August 1st, because we have figured out how to work with the UA system and the Women's Foundation of Arkansas to pay for the whole thing at all. So we're going to be fielding this in late August and early September. The committee met with Robert McGough. I believe I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Am I, Allison? Robert McGough?
Magoo, but yes, close.
I'm so sorry. Sorry, Magoo. And the team at the Department of Information Systems. And they've identified 3 questions that they think their data will be able to help us with the most. And it revolves around women's participation, completion, and placement of women in the workforce and through education completion. The historical data indicate past successes for women in labor force participation and how to build on that. And then also about how COVID-19 changed the labor force in childcare, and what the labor force for childcare was before COVID-19 and what it is after. They have a very aggressive schedule. They think that they're going to have that data to us by August. And then depending upon what changes we ask for, they'll have an interactive web page put up for us by October. We are still adding some charts to the previous report that you all saw, and we are halfway through the maps. And so I think that in the next couple of weeks, we'll have all of the maps sent to everybody for review and to have some feedback as well.
Great, thank you so much. I just want to remind everyone the deadline for getting questions for potential inclusion in the survey is August 1st. So if you in your subcommittees are talking and have a question that you just know is burning among your members, just try to meet that. Well, please meet that deadline of August 1st so we can get it included in the survey. And then I wanted to just highlight for everyone, I met someone last night who had done some work around COVID and women in the workforce for New York State. It is a proprietary document that I think they're going to maybe get me some some data or some information that they feel can be shared. But I thought that was really interesting that they have looked at that and have paid. Sorry, it was not McKinsey, it was BCG, Boston Consulting Group. Anyway, but I'll share that with the group if and as I have it. Dr. Shields, anything else before we move on?
No, just in fact, if other people want to have, they have a burning question that they'd like to add, feel free to email it to me or to Maddie or to Dr. Jones Branch, and we'll put it into this draft survey that we have already. So before we send it out, we'll include it then. So whenever you have it, send it to us.
Perfect. Okay, we'll move on to the subcommittee on barriers to entry and retention. Dr. Lloyd? Oh, hold on. We're going to get you unmuted there. Jeremy, can you help with that? There we go. Yep,
Okay,
you got
good.
it.
Are you able to hear me? Yes. We have a Zoom meeting on Monday to finalize some questions to submit since we don't know what is already there, but we will get that done quickly and in. And then we are in the process of consolidating our individual reports that have been written up and getting that also ready quickly so that we can submit for reviews. And that's it.
Wonderful. I know y'all are meeting regularly, and I'm delighted. I see the pop-up emails every once in a while. So I'm just glad that your team is working so diligently there. Thank you, Dr. Lloyd, for your leadership. Okay, moving on to impacts of COVID-19. Melly, are you in the room?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. So as we peel away the layers of the COVID-19 issue, we keep getting deeper and deeper into how it affected just everything. And so we recently, thanks to Allison, had a speaker, Angela McGraw, with the executive director for the Arkansas Women and Children's First, talking about domestic violence and the effects that COVID-19 had, and told her story. I think everyone on the call was very taken back by, just the magnitude of this issue that some of us haven't even thought of. So we are, I think, kind of done with the speakers. Our next meeting will be about, really identifying whether or not we have questions, and we have a lot of information. So the research and writing team can get ready to see a whole bunch of stuff coming towards you soon. So that's about it.
Great. Yeah, I'm delighted that Angela was able to come and talk to you. She's such a fantastic resource, not only for the women that they serve, but for the state. So thanks for that report. All right, and finally, the subcommittee on family caregiving, Gayatri. Is she in the room there? Okay, well, I tell you what, we'll see if we can find her and then make sure she's able to get on. But we'll keep going in the interest of everyone's time. So just a couple of updates from me. The next commission meeting, of course, will be in Russellville. This has been on the schedule since the beginning. And Senator Davis, I see you on the line. I just want to thank you for your willingness to host us there next month. That meeting is scheduled for August 18th, and we'll provide further details coming. They're coming as we finalize the location and time. Senator Davis, let me stop here if there's any update that you'd like to give on that at this time. Okay. So I want to point out again, I think this is going to be a lost cause, but I want to point out again that I'm still seeking recommendations for how to enjoy and engage our military community. Just really struggling to get, honestly, interest from that side of the house to come and talk to us. So that's mostly the reason for my not pushing any further on that, but certainly welcome if anyone has a contact that I can follow up on. And then obviously, if the commissioners have any additional ideas or recommendations, I'm always happy to personally reach out to folks, and whether it's getting a particular speaker for a subcommittee or some idea or a resource from somewhere else. Now I want to move into what we're really here to do, and that is to hear from women in Arkansas. We're going to kick off with Mimi San Pedro, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at the Venture Center in Little Rock. I'll do a brief introduction of her, and then she'll go into some remarks. We've actually been trying to get Mimi with us for a couple of months now, so I'm glad that she could join us here in Pine Bluff. So Mimi San Pedro is the Chief Strategy Officer for the Venture Center. And of course, the Venture Center's immersive accelerator programs are designed to accelerate growth of early to late stage companies and to help validate their solutions for real world problems. With over 30 years of experience across information, technology, and strategic marketing industries, Mimi helps galvanize the Venture Center's growth, driving key initiatives that serve the entrepreneurial and corporate innovation sectors. She also oversees, and this is why she's here today, the VC Women Achieve Mentorship Program, which is dedicated to forming meaningful relationships that help the entire community of women flourish professionally. In VC Women Achieve, women are who are looking for professional coaching are paired with seasoned women executives and entrepreneurs, and they are thoughtfully matched with a mentor and spend 12 months growing together. Mimi has been a leader in the business, in the communications and technology industries with a strong background in building and growing businesses. Most recently, she served as a chief marketing officer for NLC Products, a national catalog and e-commerce company, where she was responsible for the development of NLC's digital evolution and led the company's digital marketing strategic plan. Prior to that, she's held leadership roles in marketing strategy, corporate development, and operations at Hortus, Axiom, Contour Med, and Stoneward. Mimi, I'm delighted to see you even virtually. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so very much. And thank you, commissioners, for inviting me. I know that it's been a while since I've been invited, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Meredith. And it's not a bad drive here to Pine Bluff. So here I am on a Friday. So thank you for the wonderful introductions, by the way. So just so you know, I'm just going to give you a little story about how Women Achieve has become. So 501, so Venture Center is a 501c3 organization. That means that we are a nonprofit organization. It started about 7 years ago, and its main purpose is to promote and educate and validate and increase entrepreneurship in Central Arkansas and the state. I joined the Venture Center about 4 years ago. And the first thing that I've wanted to do, so you have to kind of a little bit know about my background. So I moved here back in the 1970s as an immigrant. I have been very successful, and Arkansas has been super nice to me because of the mentors that I have, the mentorship that I have received from some of the most valuable and professional women in Arkansas. So I wanted to give back. So when I joined the Venture Center, they already had a lot of programs when it comes to entrepreneurship. You know, we run approximately about 60 to 100 programs a year when it comes to entrepreneur education and collaboration and acceleration. But there was not something that I could put my hand around when it comes to women. As you all know in this room, women have unique needs. And when it comes to mentorship, you know, we have some cultural things that only women can understand, like family, women's issue when it comes to professionalism, when it comes to like moving up in the corporate world, or even, access to capital when it comes to entrepreneurs. And where do you go that you get mentored, that they actually understand every single, things that you're going to go through in your life as a woman. So about 3 years ago, I started thinking about this, and I started, talking to a lot of different organizations around the state. But in 2020, things happen. There are some good things and bad things that happened in 2020. COVID was one of them. But COVID actually let me stop for just a minute and start thinking about how to build this program called Women Achieve. And there were some things that really came together, and you know how things line up and things started happening. One of them is that Esperanza Mazana Crane became the leader of the minority women's group over in AEDC. That tells me that there is an avenue for me to actually communicate to those women that's going to need this kind of services and this kind of program. Another thing that happened is Wright Lindsay and Jennings started in 2019 a program called Women Run. It's a statewide program, and they focus on successful women to talk to entrepreneurs and young women about their journey into entrepreneurship or professionalism and how they and the resources that they use to achieve. So now I have an avenue for the mentors. So the first thing I started doing is calling my friends. So I called Esperanza and I said, this is a program that I've been thinking about. She said she's in. Fabulous. So now I have an avenue for the mentees. I called Ricky Smith and Meredith Lowry from Wright Lindsay and Jennings and started talking about this program and their program, Women Achieve. And they said they're in. Fantastic. Now I have a way to get the mentors. So we basically met on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, and started putting together this program. It's a very, very structured program. We started writing all of the things that the mentors will need and the mentees will need. We wrote a mentee guide on how to be, how to get the most out of it. We wrote a mentor guide and basically gave them a guide on how to become, a very meaningful and successful mentor. So then by August of that year, we sent out a communication that says, here's what the program is about. It's a statewide program. We also talked to a bunch of different organizations over in Northwest Arkansas and Northeast Arkansas. And again, they all said, yes, we need this program. You put it together. We'll communicate it and help you put together this program. So we kicked it off in August and September of last year. 120 applicants from around the state. 120 on the first year. That's fantastic. We really want that to double this year. And we are really communicating the successes and meeting on a daily basis, talking about this program with everyone. And it's needed. And it's something that we are in a monthly basis checking in with the mentors. So how do we make sure that this program is sustained and the momentum is carried from the excitement of getting a mentee and a mentor throughout the year? So how do we receive all this application, and these are the criteria that we thought about. The first is location. Make sure that we are selecting as many different areas of the state as possible. Second, diversity. We want to make sure that we have the diversity when it comes to the mentees and the mentors, because again, there's some cultural differences. I mean, I would like to speak with somebody like me, because they would understand what I'm needing and some of the things that will come my way. That's a challenge or an opportunity. The third is, what kind of skills do the mentors have and what kind of skills are the mentees looking for? And then when we started doing that application and looking at all the mentors and the mentees, you're not going to believe how easy it was to match them. It was really easy. But what we really would like moving forward is more regions of our state to be covered. We have a lot of Central Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, some in Northeast, not enough in the Delta region. And we really would like to, maybe this commission and maybe everyone in this room could help me get a little bit more applications from those regions. So we kicked it off. We have a checklist. We did an orientation. We did a checklist. Every month we call. We also have a scorecard. So the three things that we want to make sure that we really hone in on this mentorship program is mentorship, networking, and access to capital. So, we also have an app that we developed. So every meaningful interaction that the mentee and the mentor, they put their meeting and their goals on that app, and they get a score. because in the end of the year, the highest score will get $10,000, the mentee, which is the entrepreneur. The next one will be 7,500, 5,000, and hopefully I will try to gather enough money to give the rest of them something, because in the end, what we want really is those three things achieved: a mentor, hopefully for life, because that's something that we really would like to encourage, because when it comes to that mentor-mentee relationship, there's a lot of trust that has to happen, because you have to disclose, if you want to have a successful, and you have to disclose a lot of your issues, your financial, all the things that a mentor can help you, accelerate your business. We also have quarterly meetings, and those quarterly meetings, we bring in specialists, because it's also education. So a lot of the things that they're telling us, and we do a lot of surveying. It's a continuous surveying with these women, not only a phone call or a face-to-face check-in, but a lot of surveys. And what they're telling us is the top three or four things that they need is training on sales, training on marketing, training on finances. Which is also very interesting, because a lot of the women that we have been speaking with don't know how to read a financial statement. They don't understand profitability. We look at their pricing and make sure that they're, pricing their products and services correctly. So every quarter we get together, and there is a educational part of this mentorship program. So here we are. It's July. I have a calendar full of check-ins coming up in the next 2 weeks. We had 3 mentees that dropped off. We expected that. I forgot to tell you, we focus on 20 matches on the first year. We hope that will be more next year. 20 matches, because we're building this program and making sure that we are building it correctly, and that there's some sustainability to this program, because we wanted to go on and actually make it bigger and bigger throughout the state. So here we are, July. Applications start happening in August. We have been promoting it all year. We already have about 50 emails, that basically is saying that we want to be participating in this program. What I really need are mentors. I get a lot of mentees. Now, there were only 20 mentees that were selected, but the 100 plus of those that were not selected, we brought them and moved them into our group mentorship program. So they are still being mentored, but they just don't have the one-on-one with the women in this program. But hopefully some of those will be selected for next year. So thank you again. Wish me luck. I really would like this program to be super successful and hopefully growing all over the state. Do you have any questions for me?
Mildred, let me turn it over to you to manage any questions in the room, and then I'll do the management of anybody online. How's that sound?
Sure. Veronica, you said you had a question?
You were just mentioning 20 participants in your program. What is the age range and the ethnic background of those 20?
So when it comes to the mentors, they are from 40 to 60 plus. When it comes to the mentees, they are from 20 to 60 plus. We have Asians, Hispanic folks, African Americans, Caucasian. We really remember the criteria that we focused on. The location, the diversity part of it. We were really intentional in making sure that we have diversity in this program.
Anybody else? Is there any of the women here interested in being a mentee or a mentor?
I have a question at some point we can get, so if there's no answer to that question, may
Yeah.
I?
Senator Elliott, yeah, I will come to you here. Let me just make sure. Do we capture in the room, Mimi, who wanted to be the mentor or mentee?
They basically said that they already signed up on the website,
Oh,
but
perfect.
I'm gonna leave my card.
Good deal.
Perfect.
But I'm
Senator
gonna
Elliott,
leave my
your
card.
question, please.
Oh, well, good. Thanks, everybody, for signing up. Maybe I was just wondering when you were talking about areas where there are not women involved that you're concerned about. I think you said maybe the southern part of the state. Am I remembering that correctly? If the process of getting people involved, if you've had time to consider what might be the barrier to that, because it could be something maybe we could help with if you've had time to consider that and have any
Yes,
insight.
and that's a great question. Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
That's a super great question. And, one of the things that I really wanted to do is find representatives in those areas to get the word out.
Mhm.
We do, you saw my background or you heard my background.
Yeah,
We
yes,
do
I
a lot of social media, a lot of interviews. We have been on Channel 11 every week in the month of May for Mother's Day. Arcs of Business have covered this, and we send out to different Chamber of Commerce the information about this. So what really works if there's a representative in those areas that can help me get the word out.
I think that is probably going to be a thing that must be done, because when you look at the southern part of the state, even so many of the folks in the southern part of the state get their news from Louisiana and Texas because of that Arklatex area, and then over in Southeast, a similar kind of thing from Louisiana, and they might not even see that. But since I'm from down that way, I feel particularly something about that. And so I'll just get with you and talk about it, because there may be some people who may be willing, who just haven't gotten the word yet. And the other thing in that area is where we tend to have some of the most challenging efforts at trying to get everybody connected to broadband. So there may be infrastructure issues there that may be problematic. But I know how to get a hold of you. I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
what you're doing. It sounds great.
Thank you,
I look
Senator.
forward to our discussion.
Yes, so I started a nonprofit, and I was curious to know whether or not there's a need for, mentors that people that want to start a nonprofit.
Yeah, we actually have 2 of our mentees that started nonprofit.
I'm in Arkansas Delta, so I'm volunteering.
Yes. I got a mentor.
Wonderful. I love that. Mimi, I
Awesome.
just had a question also about the timeline. Can you let us know when applications are accepted? And perhaps those are things too that we can push out through the commission channels to highlight for our network as well.
Absolutely. So basically the gathering of emails is year round. So like I mentioned, there are already 50 emails, 50 women that have signed up for email notification as soon as the application opens, which will be by end of August, 1st of September. And as soon as that opens, we will send out as many email as possible to all our contacts to start getting the word out.
Perfect. Well, I will be happy to push that further out into our Women's Commission network too.
Thank you, Allison.
What are your qualifications? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What are your qualifications for your mentors?
So the mentors are pretty much, they don't have to be a entrepreneur, but it does help if they are an entrepreneur or were entrepreneur in their sometime in their professional life. There also needs, like when we were looking at application, it's all about skill sets, and depending on what the mentees are needing, we start looking at the mentor skill set and start matching it that way. So it's most of the mentors that have come our way are pretty much, high-level professionals that just want to give back. It's just like a lot of us who have been mentored in the past who now say, part of my personal and professional success is because I had mentors in my life, and I would like to give back now. And here are the skills that I have to offer.
Nancy, did you have a question? Oh, anybody else? Okay, Mimi, thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much, Mimi. Thanks for making the trip down and for your thoughts on the VC Women Achieve program. Okay, so this is always my favorite part of our meetings. And so I am delighted to now turn the floor over to my good friend and fellow commissioner, Tamika Edwards. And for those of you, maybe like one person in the room who doesn't know who Tamika is, I'm going to give a brief review of her because this woman is everywhere all the time. So she is a native of Little Rock and serves as the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Southwest Power Pool. She has over 20 years of experience in social justice, public policy, government, and community outreach. And she recently served as a special advisor to the CEO on diversity, equity, inclusion, and engagement at Central Arkansas Water. Prior to CAW, she served as the executive director of the Social Justice Institute at Philander Smith College, the director of governmental affairs at Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, the director of public policy at Southern Bancorp Community Partners, and as a community affairs specialist for former U.S. Senator Blanche Lincoln. Edwards earned a Bachelor of Arts in English from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, a Master of Arts in Professional and Technical Writing from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and a JD from the Bowen School of Law. She serves on 2 committees of the Arkansas Women's Commission, our Labor Force Participation and Barriers to Entry and Retention, and our Research and Writing Committee. Tamika, I know you're going to help us navigate the next 50 minutes to gather the experiences of both real and perceived barriers to excelling in various aspects of life in Arkansas from our guests. I'm so sorry I can't be there to hug your neck, but thanks for taking on this important role today.
See, Allison, you said all of that good stuff, and I don't even know how to turn on the microphone. I'm so happy to be here. So it's so great to see so many friendly faces and to be in my home place. Although I'm a native of Little Rock, I am so excited. I move around a lot. So if you want me to sit down somewhere, just tell me to sit down somewhere, but I do move around a lot. And to see just so many friendly faces in the good city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So I am a Golden Line and I am a part of the Pride. So I just want you to know that. So this is the fun part. It's where we get a chance to hear from community members about your experiences, and as Allison said, to those barriers. And we have a couple of topics that we want to cover, and those topics include anything in business, career finances. So Mimi, thank you so much for talking about your program and also being such a huge champion for women entrepreneurs. So I've been a recipient of that championship type of personality. So I appreciate you for that. We also want to hear about your family childcare relationships, any physical or mental health issues that may have come as these biggest barriers. And then 2, we want to hear about those policies and practices where Arkansas government and businesses could implement to further reduce those barriers, okay? So this is how we'll move. We have just a little bit of time, and we'll want to hear not only about your experiences, but those of your network, right? So we only have about 50 minutes. So we'll ask that you do not give a whole storyline that's the size of a book as you give your responses so that we can hear from as many people in the room, okay? And so it's a pop-up, but if you don't pop up fast enough, I am a former instructor, so I'll point you out. And because I'm in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, I do know many of you, and so I'll call you by name. So just be prepared. So if you don't want to be called by name or pointed out, please go ahead and just start giving your opinion or your experiences. But I'll start it so you can know exactly what to say. So what are the biggest barriers that you have faced in the following areas. And we'll just start with business and finance. Now, with that business and finance barrier, what do you think Arkansas legislators, the governor, what do you think they can do to help eliminate that barrier? So one, what is that biggest barrier in business or finance? And what do you think could be done? I know, and I'm looking at a business owner here in a blue dress, one I went to college with, and I don't want to call her by name, but I would appreciate if she goes ahead and picks up the microphone to get us started. Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much for volunteering.
It's good to be in the building.
Good.
The microphone on. It's not, we having the same issues. Okay, so it's good to be in the building. Tamika, yes, we went to school together. So I was so excited to see her. And so I do have a small business. I have a clothing boutique by the name of Style Envy. And I also have a full-time job. I'm a career mom. I'm the full-time HR director at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. So where we went to school, I came back to the city after being in Northwest Arkansas for about 15 years. So initially, the reason why I started my business was because I got laid off from one of the world's largest corporations in Northwest Arkansas. And I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to do something for myself. Had no clue what to do, how to do it. I knew I had some funds, my personal funds, and I said, well, I'm gonna take a chance on me. So I did that and started my clothing boutique. I made some mistakes because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't know all the ins and outs of being a business owner and what that looked like. But I knew I needed to do something to supplement my income, but also do something for me at the time. So I think some of the biggest barriers for me was not knowing what to do or who to connect with to do that. Of course, you have an idea, but sometimes the idea is not good enough for a business. So you have to understand the difference between the two. Like, is it profitable for me to start a business? Having the understanding and the knowledge behind that. Fast forward, moving back to Pine Bluff, taking the position where I'm currently at now, and then being provided the opportunity. I was one of the first cohorts of the entrepreneurship class with the generator here in Pine Bluff. It gave me information, access to capital because we did a pitch and people were there in the audience like, okay, let me see how I can help you. But that gave me a stepping stone to more understanding and more knowledge and more ways to help the next person. So for me, it's all about knowledge because knowledge is power, and it's all about building relationships and connections throughout the process. And with that being said, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, and I'm still open for opportunities. So when Ms. Mimi was talking about the mentorship, I was still in my mind, like I would still love to be a part of something like that to continue to grow. So thank you, Tamika. Thank you for calling me out. I was going to pick up the microphone anyway, but.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. So,
and to add, I'm sorry, Tamika. Recently, in the effort of building and continuing to build a gap in connection, I just was recently elected for Pine Bluff City Council here. So coming back to build the connection and bringing it all full circle with relationships, with being a career mom, with being a business owner, that women, you can still do whatever you want to do, regardless of where you are in life. You can still be successful and make an impact on where you are.
So here we go. It was strategic because she fit all of them as a business owner, but also now as a policymaker. And so as we continue to have these conversations around the table, think about those policies that could help out. So any other person want to speak out about what barriers you faced as in business and career and what policies and practices that could help? Now, there is another person with whom I know, and she's trying to look down and write and look very serious, and she has on a yellow jacket, and she's sitting very close to the front, you know. Oh, you're looking at me now. Oh, that's so wonderful. That would be wonderful for you to talk about the biggest barriers, especially as a nonprofit, and what those barriers you faced in business and what policies and practices, that could help out. Oh, great. You have the microphone. Go ahead, Ms. Dove.
Good evening to everyone. And thank you for the opportunity. I was just making notes. We're celebrating 20 years as a nonprofit. I wish I had that mentor to start off with because it was a struggle. And as I look back now, I try to give the opportunity to as many people that come my way because it's not easy. When you put your personal finance and you sacrifice your life to make a difference, it means something in your community. Some of the barriers that I see or the opportunities that I face with some of the government funding that I've had, the paperwork, you don't mind being accountable, but sometimes it takes so much of your time that where you really want to focus on your mission, it takes away. Just recently, I want to share this story. We have one of the largest feeding programs, and we were able, because of COVID, to allow parents to come and pick up food. And it's serious, you all. When I tell you that children are in need of food, well, that program was called Grab and Go for Parents. We would see parents leave their jobs to come to get meals for their children. And I'm talking about working parents. I'm not talking about those that's at home. We had parents at home too. But that program was cut out. And all of a sudden, it was said that it was not needed. It's needed now. I have people that walk off the streets every day coming to feed their kids. And I think about those parents that was coming to pick up meals that no longer can do that now. So there are barriers that we face. Wishing that, sometimes I know that rules are put in place because of different kind of frauds and that sort of thing. But look at those organizations that's really trying to make a difference, So that's what I would like to say. And thank you again for calling on me.
It was suggested. So, and we'll continue to move along the topic. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be now around business and finance, but what are those barriers, as Ms. Dove talked about, that deal with family, childcare, and we also have Commissioner Kathy Webb, who's a part, and so feeding and hunger, that's all in Kathy's wheelhouse. So maybe at some point, and I'm sure you probably already know one another, that you can continue to connect. Okay, good. Did you hear that, Kathy? Okay, good. So physical and mental health, social and spiritual safety, education and development. So we can go along any of those as you think about what those barriers are and what policies and practices that could be addressed in order to deal with those things. Now, you've already seen by experience that I will call you out, and I call out people that I don't know too. So just remember that too. I'm bold. You have one right here. Oh, you're not calling?
Hello.
And then I'll come to you. Ms. Harris? Oh, no, I'll come to you. There you go.
I'm on. Okay. Allison Thompson. I'm with the Economic Development Alliance of Jefferson County. We're economic development and the Regional Chamber of Commerce, Pine Bluff Regional Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to make the comments that we've seen the barriers when it comes to childcare and insufficient amount and quality of childcare. And there's been a lot of conversations about that. We've heard from some of our businesses, and I say we, Nancy McNew works with me. She's sitting right next to me. We've heard, especially when it comes to third shift, we do have a lot of industrial businesses here, which we love. They're good jobs, good solid jobs. But you try to, somebody working a third shift that needs childcare, good luck. So that's one of the barriers I've seen. We also see good things happening. Yesterday in this room, SBA did a 2-hour session on what they have to assist small businesses. And I was sitting next to a gentleman who's thinking about starting one, and he was taking notes because they have the resources to really help. Angelise Henry is our local SBA person now. And so that's wonderful that we have that representation here. So the resources for the entrepreneurs in our and small business owners in our community are growing, besides what we offer at the chamber, and I can go into that at length. And Mildred's already mentioned the generator and what they have to offer. So our resources are growing. And so the positive things are happening, but there's still barriers, and the childcare is the one that jumps out at me.
Yeah.
Can I say something about that childcare? So that's another thing, you know, when I was talking about like the uniqueness of a women mentorship program. So can you imagine bringing your children to a mentorship program, a professional mentorship program, when there's you know, men and women in the room? Well, in our case, they bring their children to doing mentorship program because we all understand what that means. We all understand that they sometimes when they have to have this service, they have to. And they're all welcome. And as a matter of fact, we ask if they're coming because we got to bring them some treats.
Hold on. Yeah.
Thanks. What does that barrier actually look like in people's lives? Like we talk about that a lot on this commission is, you know, there's a childcare gap and support for working moms. So could you illustrate like in your role, how you've seen that play out?
Well, we've heard from employers that they hear that from their employees, that they don't have access to quality childcare. So that number one is where we're here, because we do a business retention program where we go out and we talk to our managers, our plant managers and owners. And so we hear that from them, that they're hearing it from their employees.
And what's the impact on the employees?
Well, if you can't find childcare, you can't work, right?
So
what are you going to do with your kids?
Yes.
And something we've identified in the caregiving committee is supporting the women who are opening childcares, especially ones that are smaller ones in their home, and helping them and supporting them, encouraging them to have their licenses and meet all the requirements to have a safe childcare, but on a smaller scale. You know, something we've identified in our subcommittee has been, you know, we tend to think of childcare as larger facilities, but supporting those smaller in-home ones in neighborhoods that really can help with our numbers in rural Arkansas.
And they own that one-on-one care. And when we reached out to some child care facilities and said, why don't you offer third shift? They mentioned things like the added expense of paying people overnight and the added insurance and different things that made it cost prohibitive for them to provide that service.
So sorry to belabor, is the barrier that there aren't enough childcare facilities, which would make sense for more in-home, or is it the shifts don't match the shifts that the employees need?
So the shift would be the overnight shift that's not provided for. Okay. The daytime, I think, is okay, but it accepts that there's not enough slots.
And I work for your hospital here as well as 15 other ones, but that's a movement that's happening. In fact, I just wrote 2 grants for hospitals that are starting 24/7 daycares or trying to, because that is a big issue and has been with getting healthcare workers recruited, but also leaving the workplace because of this issue. So I know that a lot of the healthcare providers or hospitals are looking at this sort of thing. So I think that's something that really needs to be pushed.
And it does vary across the state. And so it has to be looked at on a community by community basis, because some need the overnight care, some need a larger number of facilities, others need more affordable facilities. So there are a lot of nuances which makes it harder to address, because there's not a blanket fix to it, of course.
We have a question right here.
My name is Rosie Pettigrew, and I moved back to my hometown here in Pine Bluff 2013, started up a restaurant. My background is basically telecommunications. I've got over 50 years experience in that entity. And so coming back to Pine Bluff, having been in Atlanta and experiencing the wonderful resources that's there for new business startups, it was a bit different coming back here. I used to work for AT&T. So while at AT&T, I was over a mentorship program for all people who wanted to attend it. And what we found out, there was a lot of skills that was lacking, even within that community. Here in Pine Bluff, what I find is that there's a skill set that's missing, one being business etiquette in some cases. Our businesses, the employees don't know how to communicate or interact with the people that they're working with, the customer. The other thing falls back on the business person, the owners, by having access to training. And by that, I mean, say QuickBooks, basic accounting, basic bookkeeping, somewhere here where they can go and have access to that. In our restaurant, I'm the accountant, the bookkeeper, the marketing person, and I have a lot of other roles. In addition to, I still have a job. I still work for one of a very large telecommunication company. The other problem we have here that needs to be addressed is broadband service. You can't work from home and get high-speed broadband. You know, your upload speed is very important. So we can get the download, but you cannot get the high speed. You know, we've had businesses here in Pine Bluff that have had to resort to other measures because they can't get the AT&T or the cable links high-speed access internet to the internet. So if we could have in some way, form, or fashion, have somebody really pay attention to the broadband, I think there would be opportunities for more businesses to do what they need to do, because with social media and everything else, we need it. We really need it desperately. The other thing to Miss Mimi, I would love to be a mentor in your program.
Everybody is following directions so well. I tell you, gold stars for everyone.
Hi. Oh, it's green. Okay. Hi, I am Emily Blanton. I was actually a tag along today with one of our commissioners and did not plan on speaking, but I felt called to today. I actually graduated from Watson Chapel here in Pine Bluff, and I didn't go far. I currently work at Henderson State University in an assistant director role right now. I work with our fraternity and sorority life, and Dr. Veronica Salazar is actually my boss. So I wanted to touch back on something that Kim had asked, how like childcare is directly affecting women. I am the godmother to two very beautiful little girls under the age of 5. And their mother has been trying to go to school and work on top of raising 2 children and going through a divorce and things of that nature, and then getting remarried. Childcare is expensive. It is outrageously expensive. Her childcare bill is usually more, if not equal to her rent, which is insane. And sometimes it is equivalent, depending on how many days a week that her child goes to childcare. It's equivalent to the cost of all of her bills. So she could spend anywhere between $5,000 to $6,000 on childcare a month for her 2 little girls. So I think that that's one huge barrier for women and professional women, is that childcare is expensive on top of all the other expenses. I think another barrier that impacts women incredibly heavily is the lack of emphasis on mental health care, self-care. As someone who is currently getting her as someone who's currently getting her master's in clinical mental health counseling, I put a lot of emphasis on mental health care. I'm sure Veronica can tell you guys all of that. I'm real big on self-care because I think that if we're not firing on all cylinders, we cannot serve the people that we work with well. So there's not a lot of emphasis on like taking time for yourself and setting those boundaries and saying no in the workplace. I think that they just kind of expect us to step into that regardless of where we might be mentally. And on top of that, I think a big barrier mental health wise for women is we come to work, we work all day, 40 hours a week, most of us more. And then a lot of us go home and we work again. We're taking care of kids. We are cleaning the house. We're cooking dinner. We're doing the laundry. So that's like having 2 full-time jobs, especially if you're a single parent. And so having those breaks from, if you need to take a mental health day from work and things like that, and your staff and employers being understanding of needing that time away for a few minutes is kind of crucial to the workplace. And you find that sometimes the people who might be above you just like don't understand that, I'm a full-time person working here, but I'm also a full-time person working at home as well. There are other people who rely on me at home as well. So I think that is a lot of the barrier that you see in the professional world for women. And then I think too, sometimes when you're a mom, they're like, oh, well, she can't step into that because, she's got kids to take care of. So she's not going to be able to take on that additional responsibility. So sometimes I think that women who have families are underestimated in their capabilities of what they can take on and what they can do. So yeah, that's all the barriers I wanted to interject.
Can you pass it right there? So this is interesting as we continue to talk about what some of those barriers are. And I don't know if you all are recognizing it, but you are putting a bit of what those solutions could be. So we talked about having some skills for business owners, not only for like accounting and different things like that, but also for their employees as it relates to interacting with customers. When you talk about mental health and childcare, maybe the practice or the policy that connects with that is having employers who are much more understanding, but also could implement a policy or a practice of flexible schedules. Or if we're looking at broadband, making sure that parents are able to work remotely and still do those tasks that don't require in-office work, or for you to be in the office in order to complete that work. So let's continue this conversation of what those barriers are, but also coupled with some solutions that business and government could implement in order to reduce it.
Can you all hear me? Okay. My name is Tabitha Reeves. I own and operate a small candle manufacturing company called Twisted Lane Candles here in Pine Bluff. And I'm kind of a little bit different than everybody in this room. I'm a transplant. I was brought here because of the Army. My spouse was an active duty service member and we were brought here for recruiting. So Pine Bluff is not my hometown. I was not born or raised anywhere near here. So I came in kind of as a outsider. And from day one, from the day that I started my business, I had a hard time because I didn't have a community here and I didn't know anyone and I didn't know what resources were offered to me here. And as I got to looking for resources, I realized they were all in Little Rock. I should not have to drive 45 minutes to get resources for a small business in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff, Arkansas is large enough. There are enough business owners here, men and women, that we should have the resources here. Because I also have children. I had a husband that deployed and I was alone. I couldn't drive those 45 minutes 3 times a week to come to Little Rock to get the help that I needed, because I have children that go to school in Rison. It's 20 minutes from Pine Bluff to Rison. So let's add another 20 minutes to go to Little Rock. So now it's an hour and 15 minutes to Little Rock. School pickups at 2:30. By the time you get to Little Rock at 10 a.m. and you have 4 meetings, it is now 2 o'clock. You cannot get back to school pickup at 2:30. There are no systems in place in some of our schools for after-school care. There are no systems in place for entrepreneurs to get help in Pine Bluff, and there needs to be. There is now, there's things moving in, the generator moved in. The Arkansas Business Association and Technology Center just opened. But why are these things just now happening? I look around this room and I know quite a few of the women in this room. I did a cohort with Letitia. I've worked with the chamber. Miss Mildred has been one of my biggest supporters. But why is this just happening in Pine Bluff now? I've been here 6 years. And in the 6 years that I have been here, I am seeing more happening with women entrepreneurs and women families than I ever have. But the problem with that, what comes with that is, what are our solutions? Our solutions are after-school programs, affordable after-school programs where an entrepreneur or someone who works a full-time job can still come in at 6 o'clock at night and pick their children up. And they don't have to worry about what's happening. They don't have to worry about where they are every day. And they don't have to rush home if they have a meeting in Little Rock or they have a meeting in Magnolia. They don't have to rush home for those things. Or they have to, or they're in a mentorship program, because that's another barrier here, is there's nothing in the evenings for entrepreneurs to have. And many of us are married, and many of us have that spouse that is able to take care of those children in the evenings, but it has to be after 5 o'clock. It can't be at noon, especially if you've got young children. It can't be at noon. It's got to be after 5 o'clock. And you've got to be able to have people that can come in and understand that you can't meet until after 5 o'clock. So those are things that I'm seeing that I would love to see some solutions to. Let's have after-school childcare. Let's have affordable childcare. Let me flip this around. I have a 16-year-old that owns business. She owns a gourmet mushroom farm. Do you know there are no resources in Pine Bluff, Arkansas for her, except for UAPB? Because nobody wants to speak with her. So let's focus not only on our adult women, but let's focus on our young women too, that are trying to make the world a little bit of a better place.
Good, thank you.
Hi, hear me? Okay, I'm Pat Tate, and I am the director of Neighbor to Neighbor, which is our local food pantry and soup kitchen. We serve about 1,200 lunches a month, 5 days a week, and give monthly groceries to 600 families a month. We're busy, and we also help with utilities and medicines and clothing. But the point I wanted to make is I see a lot of these women, on a daily basis who have obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And, our philosophy at Neighbor to Neighbor is when someone comes in with a bill or whatever, there are a million reasons not to help that person. They don't have an ID that matches their address on the bill. Well, we know what it's going to cost to get our new licenses. It's a fortune, and the documentation you have to get it. So I look at those people and I tell my employees, we are yes people, because they have obstacles in their way at every single turn. And if we can be a yes instead of a no, and to your point, there may not be the resources, and the resources that we do have love to say no. They love to throw up obstacles and tell you 100 reasons why they can't. And so I think a more open and willing community, and the way you get that is to offer that QuickBooks training for free, heaven forbid, or, have that after 5 childcare, but don't charge them an arm and a leg because it's special. And so I think when the community buys in, and these people, we want to help each other, not just ourselves, I think that's going to be a breakthrough for us. Thank you.
Can I just add one thing? With the barriers, I will say that coming back, being a single mom, I did have to find resources, and I have to give props to Ms. Dove, because she has a great after-school program with TOPS, and that has been a help not only for after school but also for summer. Along with the Jefferson County Boys and Girls Club, I have just kind of found some connections that way to find some resources, not only for myself, but other women and families who need that support when it comes to childcare. And school lets out at 2, and where do my child go from 2 to 6 because I have to work, so that definitely eased something for me. But also working with the U of A system, they have a global campus that offers professional development programs. And they came down here and met with our Workforce Development Center to let them know that they can offer some professional development for the community for free, but a lot of people might not know that. So making sure we get that information out to the community and the city to let them know that we have some partnerships that are coming that can offer some of those soft skills, that can offer some of that professional development for free, so we can help people who are in leadership positions be leaders, because a lot of people are in leadership positions but have no idea how to lead. And I think that's where the disconnect comes.
So I was just going to say that that's some really rich feedback, because you often wonder if some of the resources exist, but not everyone who needs to take advantage of it knows it. So maybe the challenge for everyone in the room today is to make sure that they exchange that information so that each person can provide some other information for folks who need those services.
I'm Lakeisha Hill. I'm the zoning official for the city of Pine Bluff. And so I'm one of the starting points for startups for business here. And I see young ladies, women come into the office all the time, and they come in with more of a dream than a business plan. And so I would like to see some kind of training for startups and people who have a dream, but not the background and information they need to be successful in implementing what they have in their heart. I see them start up and walk through the process, get a brick and mortar location, and they can't sustain themselves because they did not have the background of carrying their dream out. And so they come back and I see them again and they say, Ms. Hill, I'm going to start again. I'm going to do this time. And I just wish for them a training program of local policy and state policy, because a lot of times we have regulations here, but you have prerequisite at a state level to even go forward with what you want to do. And you can't start with me or the city until you have other things in place. And the startup is real and it's hard and it's often not sustainable. So that's something I would like to see. I'd like to see something local and maybe partnering with people in the state that, based on the type of business you want to do, you have the background in knowing what you're facing, and you don't just start in a building and can't maintain what you started. So that's one. Number two, I have a grandchild, and he's mine as far as I'm concerned. So he's with me all the time outside of being with his mom. And if not for that, there's a lot of times that his mom wouldn't know what to do because of childcare. She works shift work, and most daycares that I know of end at 6. And so there's a gap in second shift and third shift, because second shift is 3 to 11. And you have to be concerned about who's going to have your child after you're already at work. And if you have a childcare that ends at 6, then who gets them and where they go after that? So she has been from job to job. She's not lazy. So she will end one service and go into another job because she couldn't keep this job because she didn't have childcare. And so she doesn't give up, but I'd like to see her with an option. And workplace daycare would be awesome, but it's not something that's offered here in workplace. I mean, I started with the city, and I have a son that's 27 now, and he was kindergarten when I started. And, you know, through grace of my workplace, my child would get dropped off in the parking lot and come into my office and sit quietly, but you don't always have that. So I understand that there is a need, but home daycare and facility daycares are completely different. What you can offer in a home may not be what is needed in the workplace for parents because they have limitations in a home daycare. Child cares that are facilities have limitations in hours of operation and going over into nighttime. So there's an added expense to the operators of those types of facilities. So it's just hard. And not to echo what everyone has said, but I just wanted to speak on the experience and knowledge that I had of the subjects.
I have one last comment. One thing that's very critical for any business is to have a business plan. One of the things I did for our restaurant is to develop the business plan. We looked at the demographics from A to Z. Would that business work on Main Street? Who was our competitors? Is it viable for Pine Bluff? I did all of that before I moved back to Pine Bluff and we opened up our business. What's critical is that there were 3 businesses that opened. The other 2 didn't have a business plan. Our restaurant was the only one that had it. As a result of that and other things, our restaurant is still viable. It's still in place after all these years. Along with the business plan, one very important key person mentor to me was Paul Williams in Atlanta. From Pine Bluff, UAPB, Paul had several Wendy's in Atlanta. And he and I, we've always been very good friends. So when I did this, I consulted with him. Paul, what are your thoughts on what made you successful in Wendy's? And he was there. But see here, it seems sometimes that and I've seen this because I try to help if people ask me questions and give them answers or give them directions. When they go to someone, it's almost like people are afraid to give the right answer or to direct the person in the right way. That trust has to be there because it's always been pull up one. You know, that was my motto at AT&T, pull up one, at least one person, and help them so that they can be successful too, because as a community, you know, we want Pine Bluff to grow and to be the Mecca like it used to be when I grew up here. It's getting there with the help of some things that have happened now. You know, we've seen the faces change, and Pine Bluff is a wonderful place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back. You know, you got to have love for what you do too. And I think that if we could have some of those resources, it would definitely be more beneficial to the entrepreneur.
Okay. Hello, I'm Lakita Murray. I'm a nurse of 28 years. I'm also the chapter president of Pine Bluff chapter of the Arkansas Honor Guard. My experience is, as far as the learning ability of how you start, the startups and whatnot, I'm a fledgling entrepreneur. I'm trying to get my business off to a start, but I was a part of the last cohort of the generator under Miss Mildred Franco, and I learned an awful lot. We learned a lot under her tutelage as far as the business plans, things of that nature. But that's not often. The problem with Pine Bluff is that a lot of that information is not out there. If I wasn't a part of the generator and learning new things, they send me a lot of emails of things that are going on now, such as right now. Part of the cohort for the Heartland Foundation. They're the builders and backers. There was only 4 people picked from the Pine Bluff area. I was one of those 4. But like I said, the information is not getting out there. You have to do your own due diligence because you just have to really dig down in there to try and figure out what's going on, how to do it, who to go to get the information, all that. It's not readily available. The biggest thing that you have here, everybody want to tell you what they said, but they can't tell you who they are. So that's what you have to find out is who they is that you need to go to. And that's the biggest secret here in the Delta is who they are. Yeah, so that's one of the things. Another barrier that we have here, unfortunately, is an educational issue. I'm also a care coordinator with UAMS, formerly AHEC here. And so we get a lot of issues with people having to fill out their paperwork. Another barrier, like if somebody want to have self-care time, take time away, we've had a lot of issues with COVID, having daycare issues, things of that nature. And if you need a break from your job, a mental issue, especially the factory jobs here, they don't want to take that as a excuse to sit down. And the paperwork to fill it out, the FMLA paperwork, it's not supposed to have any, it's federally mandated. It's not supposed to have any restrictions on it. But a lot of the factories around here try to put those restrictions on it, like they don't want to accept the self-care or you need a mental break. They require you to come to your doctor to get that, and then they still want to try to give you a problem with that. But with being the care coordinator for AHEC, we are the largest medical clinic here in Pine Bluff. So we deal with a lot of the community. And so lately I've been seeing a lot of the younger generation that having issues with filling out paperwork right, or talking to someone in a professional manner, or even when I was a nurse at the nursing homes, when somebody wanted to apply for a job, they didn't have professional etiquette where they knew how to come to apply for a job. They would come with flip-flops, tank tops on, and it's not, I was taught at UAPB business etiquette, how to dress when I want to get a job. You dress for what you want, and they don't get that here for some particular reason. So, my thing is, if you can just reach one, when it's presented, if you could just reach one, it'll spread, hopefully. But it's just a lot of our community that's not even at that level where they can tell you you're doing that wrong. Or sometimes it may be an issue they're even scared to say that's not right. But like I said, the problem is a communication issue. We don't know how to approach each other or pass the word on anyone. But like I said, I'm learning. I'm trying to do everything that I need to do in order to get where I want to be. And I'm just needing the help, because I'm glad was invited here, because I met a few people I need to speak with about my entrepreneur activities.
So I know it seemed as though I was coming behind you to shut you down. I really wasn't. I was making sure that I went next to our commissioner who wanted to make a comment. So
I just wanted to piggyback off that. A lot of what everyone has said today has been about one-on-one relationships, trust, mentorships. And I think in our work, we've seen there are wonderful programs working in Arkansas, but they're smaller programs because they have those relationships built. So I think one of our challenges would be localizing and personalizing the resources county by county. Save the Children might be really successful in these 4 counties, but maybe in these other 3 counties, it's a different program that's offering assistance. And so I think the challenge for us in this room, look how powerful we are in this room to coordinate resources and help each other. How can we reach individuals to let them know which resource in their county so that they're not going through hundreds of organizations to find the handful that really have that foothold and have built those relationships. And I would like some of the people here today who have you've worked so hard to find resources to become entrepreneurs and be successful business owners. If you could go back in time, what would that have looked like? Would it have been a website to direct you to resources? Would it have been a nonprofit, private, public? What would have been the ideal direction for you at that point in your lives?
Good evening. My name is Chantel Jones.
And I actually came today saying that I am going to sit and listen and learn. I was not going to talk, but here I am. And it was something that you said that just reached out to me because I'm a teacher. And when you spoke on people not knowing how to fill out forms, not knowing how to dress, that addresses education. I won't say 20 how many years, but I've been a teacher for quite some time. And most of my early students, all of them are grown, like full-grown adults with families. And I went into education. I started at UAPB, a nursing major. I had 72 hours and I changed my major to education because some young ladies that were in school with my family member were on academic scholarships, athletic scholarships, and they couldn't write a paragraph. And they were about to lose those funds. And I held class in my dorm room and taught them how to write, start with the topic sentence and progress to that. And I thought, I could do this. I think I could do this. So I changed to education. I started all over because I was only allowed to carry like 12 hours of what I had because I clipped out of so many freshman courses, you know, based on your ACT scores. So I went into education to teach children. And it seems like it's evolving into teaching programs. And that's a problem. When I was in high school, there were classes that kids could take to learn how to do things that didn't require going to college, shop classes and things like that. And the schools are kind of getting away from that. And we're more teaching programs and children. I taught fourth grade first. I've taught many grades. I've moved around when sometimes we have discipline issues and lower students because I don't mind staying after school. I don't mind staying in on my break to work with kids that I know don't want to ask questions in class because it's embarrassing, but I know that they don't know. So I go where I'm needed. I'll be moving to sixth grade next year because they're bringing them back to the elementary school. I was one of the only 3 people in the building certified sixth grade, so I didn't have much of a choice, but I'm going willingly. But we're failing our kids academically. I'm just going to be honest because everybody's shooting for that. What is the adequate yearly progress I've got to meet? And then once I meet it, I'm done. But that's for a test that may or may not change in another year or so. It's not skills that they need to perform things that they need to do. I have parents that call me at night because they don't know how to help their child do their homework, fourth grade. This is not the math that we did when I was in fourth grade. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. This is not the science that we did. And my nest is empty. All of my children are grown and gone. They're all done with college and have their own lives, their own homes. So I don't mind. Some people have a problem with that. And I understand if I had a house full of children, that would be a lot. But sometimes I teach until 9 o'clock at night from home. I put them on a Google Meet so that I can see them, they can see me, I can see what they're doing. I lug my books home every day just in case someone calls. Everyone does not, some teachers do not want parents to have their cell phone numbers. I call them all the time during the day to ask a question. If somebody's out, when I get a minute, I'm calling, hey, is so-and-so sick? Or what's going on? What happened? I'm going to give them some work for tomorrow. If you need to call me because they missed the lesson, because they have us moving at a pace like that. You teach a lesson today, tomorrow you're building on that lesson with something else. And it really doesn't leave us a lot of go back time. Everyone doesn't get it the first time. I feel like Pine Bluff High needs to do almost a complete overhaul. I think that when students become seniors in high school, there should be a place where you're allowed to go and register to vote. You're 18.
I know that you're registered to vote when you go to get a driver's license. All kids at age 16, 18 or whatever are not going to get a driver's license. They don't have anything to drive. At school, they should be allowed to register to vote. That's just the way I feel, because decisions are made for them because they aren't registered voters, even in the realm of education. Because we had a really big to-do with education in Pine Bluff, well, schools in Pine Bluff this year. And we found that we have some really intelligent students who have a voice, and they should be able to use it. But schools have got to do better, because those kids don't stay kids, they become adults. They graduated high school and can't fill out a job application, and that's sad. Thank you.
Welcome, thank you. So we have with Annette Dove, who was called on, and I called her out, and she's waving her hand now, and I feel a little bad. So commissioners, 30 seconds, Annette Dove, you got 30 seconds.
One thing that I want to share when you talk about a barrier that I face was a lot of financial institutions are not very friendly. And it made it hard. I get some funding from Arkansas. 80% of my funding comes from out of Arkansas. And a lot of times with nonprofits, we're competing in the Arkansas with other nonprofits, and smaller nonprofits have such a barrier trying to compete. And then on one instance, when you're talking about childcare and aftercare, we do provide aftercare and mentorship and all of that. And with our license, we are compelled to hold our numbers this summer, we had 60 students on the waiting list. I had parents calling me in the middle of the night, can you squeeze one more in? But because of licensing and our size of our facilities, we could not do it. So those are other barriers that a lot of businesses face too.
Good job, good job. So we are at 2:30, and that's when we were supposed to end. So we are wrapping it up, but our wonderful chair, Miss Allison Williams, will close us out. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Tamika. Thanks for getting these women out of their shells this morning. I was just saying to myself, I'm just so glad. I loved hearing how many women said they came to not say anything, to just listen, and then felt compelled to speak. That's exactly what we were hoping for. So really appreciate everyone sharing their experiences and their specific barriers. So I want to thank our special guests. I want to thank our hosts again, Mildred Franco, Ricky Williams, the City of Pine Bluff, and the public library there. Thank you so much. Thank you to our commissioners who dedicate so much extra time out of their very busy schedules each month to this effort. Just a reminder for those in the room, we'll be putting together a report that will go to the governor and the state legislators in December. And so we're racing towards that deadline and very excited about it. So thank you very much again. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.